Here.
Don Walsh.
Here.
David Belver.
Here.
Fiona Pearson.
Here.
Tricia Kramer. Greg Wolf.
Here.
Jim Jinks.
Here.
Lou Tedisco.
Here.
Deb Hagan.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start our public communications tonight with a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas May is recognized nationwide as Mental Health Awareness Month to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and support individuals living with mental health conditions. And whereas mental health conditions affect millions of Americans, adults, children, and families, and access to prevention, treatment, and support services remains essential. And whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas the Town of Cheshire Human Services Department has demonstrated leadership in expanding behavioral health awareness, education, and access to services for residents of all ages through programs such as Mental Health First Aid and QPR, coordination with area mental health providers and school support services, and the provision of or referral to counseling to Cheshire residents across their lifespan. And whereas the Town of Cheshire encourages all residents, organizations, schools, businesses, and agencies to promote mental health awareness and support those affected by mental health conditions. Now therefore, I, Peter J. Talbot, Mayor and Chair of the Town Council, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the Town of Cheshire and encourage the community to increase awareness, reduce stigma, and support accessible mental health services. Dated at Cheshire this 12th day of May 2026. I know that our Human Services Director is lurking in the back of the room. So I would be remiss not to give a shout out to the job that our Human Services Department does. You guys do wonderful things for all of our residents, and it is truly appreciated, and I'm very happy to do this proclamation on behalf of that. So thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Our next item is a presentation from Wright Pierce on the I&I study and recommendations. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, members of the council, town manager, town attorney. My name is John Parati. I'm the chairman of Cheshire's WPCA. We have the whole WPCA organization behind us to support all the information that we're going to be telling you today. We're going to be giving you an update on the status of the system, and quite honestly, some serious concerns that we have, and we want to make you fully aware of where we are and the ramifications. So our format's going to be, we're just going to give an introduction why we're here, a historical perspective of the system, how old it is, the upgrades that have been performed, a status of where we are actually going, where we should be going. We're going to bring you a brief update technically on what is I&I, what does it do, and what its impact is to the plant. We're going to give you a brief WPCA capital improvement plan. And then we're gonna, we can field some questions if you have any of them during this process here. So the current wastewater treatment plant's 60 years old, okay? It's been through multiple upgrades and redesigns. Many of them have been regulatory driven. What do I mean by regulatory driven? They are items of our permit to discharge, conditions that we have to abide by. Historically, the first one really was nitrogen removal of nitrogen in the system, phosphorus removal, and then ultraviolet light disinfection. As a side note, the state of Connecticut has really relied on Cheshire to kind of be a pilot for many of the new technologies that have been implemented. So we have been blessed, I guess you could say, with trying out all these new technologies to see how they actually work in the early onset stages, and they get refined after us. The current collection system, what is the collection system? These are our underground pipes. Their age is really based on the expansion of when they were actually put in. As our collection system grew, as the sewer system grew, increased capacity. The main interceptors and force mains, the pipes that are from the pump stations, okay, are basically of a similar age, except they have had minimal to no maintenance. So the time when they are put in the ground, they sit as they are. And they can be anything from a clay-based pipe to other materials. But again, they're underground, out of sight. We don't really think about them that much. And then there's this thing called I&I, which is infiltration and inflow. We'll describe it a little more. It's killing us. This is water that is not supposed to be coming into our system, that's making its way into there, and we are getting robbed of capacity of the plant, and then we're actually spending funds and money treating this water that should have never actually made its way into the plant. So what have we done previously? What's our historical update on this? Well, over the last 25 years, the WPCA and the Town Engineering Department has performed over a dozen studies. I&I studies to identify problem areas, kind of locate where do we need to look, our compass rose direction, where should we be focusing our efforts on. We've implemented programs to find leaking pipes and the inflow sources. And we've also developed a series of regulations to deter these historical problems. Really going after things like our inflow sources, whether they be sump pumps, gutter connections, illegal connections to the sewer system that should not be there. But the fact is nothing has gone beyond that. We're very good at doing studies. We're not that good at performing action. And so what actually is the problem here? Well, you can consider this deferred maintenance, okay? And when we look at deferred maintenance, what does it actually cost us? When you look at it, it's really asset deterioration, accelerated wear, tear, reducing lifespan. Typically, when you run a piece of equipment to failure, the repair costs are anywhere between 8 to 40 times the cost of maintaining that asset. There's safety hazards, unsafe conditions posing risk. We can, we could have things like raw sewage or collapsed pipes. Nobody here would want to be on the end result of not having our waste flow down the pipes. Operational downtime. We are a machine that does not turn off. We run 24/7, 365. We don't get any breaks. And then there's the environmental issues. So again, if we fail to maintain or if we have some escapes, we have the risks of violating our permit. And, we don't want to do that. So when you look at the facility, you can see there's a highlighted area of different, age upgrades. 1968 areas, that's the middle hub there. That was the originals, 50 years old. Then they did an upgrade in the 90s, and you can see there was more equipment that was provided, more tanks. 2007, there was a construction for nitrogen and some other equipment, and then the latest one was 2015, where we built two new buildings and added phosphorus reduction and ultraviolet too. I don't think that's noted on here though. Correct. So, what happens when we don't do what we're supposed to do? What you see up there is a summary of what's called a notice of violation from the Connecticut DEP. I was driving home on December 23rd, and I received a call directly from the DEP to notify us that we were going to be receiving this NOV. And the NOV was the result of really poor maintenance over 2 years at the plant. Our team down at the plant, including Wright Pierce, from that point on, went into high gear, provided support, provided resources where we are today, where we know what we are out of that notice of violation. But it took quite a few years, and the DEP came down on us and put some mandates on some things that we actually have to do. So when you look at that, since the NOV, we've implemented what we call a Find and Fix project, which was along the Honey Pot Brook sewer line. I was pretty frustrated because we haven't done much. So what we did is we kind of changed direction to say we need to start fixing as much as we can quickly. And so we implemented this plan where we went and we would camera portions of the pipe, provide repairs as we found them. But that is still a small part of what we need to actually be doing. Part of this, we initiated a 2025 townwide I&I study. It was partially funded by the DEP. And what we want to do is to continue being aggressive. What do I mean by being aggressive? We want to maximize the available funding that we can use. We need to take the sting out of some of these upgrades. We know there's going to be costs associated with them, but we need to maximize how much we can do with every single dollar we actually get. Which is why I think we need to continue our find and fix approach. We need to develop strategies to address the private I&I issues, which are killing us. And we need to pursue construction grants as they are made available. As a side note, DEP said they need to remove I&I, or they flat out came and say they will no longer fund anything further at our plant. Just as a side note, our last plant upgrade, what was the funding we received? 20 million?
Yeah,
It was 9 million for a it was 20-something million. 24%. So we can't afford to lose that funding. It would be devastating. And so Dennis is going to go over some more of the technical stuff here, kind of, if you guys have questions.
Great, yeah, thanks, John. Dennis Diver Jr., Wright Pierce Engineers, WPCA Consulting Engineer. Just for those of you who may not know what I&I is, this figure here shows it all. These are all the potential locations that this extraneous water could get into the system through sump pumps, through roof drains. Some people have foundation drains around their yard that's tied into the sewer system instead of the storm drain system. Cracks in the pipe, roots poking their way through and allowing water to infiltrate in. Open manhole covers. So this is just a sampling of all the different locations and places that this excess water could get in. So what happens at the treatment plant? These are just a couple of photos that they shared with me. You can see at the bottom of the stairs, the basement is flooded with sewage. On the middle picture, that room is flooded. Just all of these pictures show flooding at the plant when this excessive water finds its way to the plant. This here, the photo on the right, it's a still photo, but that water pouring in on the right-hand side, it's coming through a joint. That's just groundwater pouring in at several gallons a minute. Then it goes down your sewer pipe, gets pumped by your pump stations, gets treated at your treatment plant, and there's a cost associated with that.
But if you notice also on the top of that pipe, you can see there's actually a piece missing from it.
Yep, and there's a piece missing. I have a video here.
You connected to the internet?
Yeah, it should be. This is, hopefully it'll open up. So this is a video of the plant during a storm where the water coming in is just overtopping the tanks and filling the parking lot. That's all raw sewage that's at the plant. Again, in addition to this extraneous water coming in, you also have deterioration of the infrastructure. This picture on the left is a concrete pipe. If you can see in the photo, it's sort of ribbed, if you will. It's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to look like the picture in the middle, which is about a 3-inch thick concrete cylinder. That ribbed portion is in the center of that, so you've lost about half of the thickness of the pipe in this particular area here on the left. And if everyone remembers the Mansion Road force main failure in front of Napa on Route 10, was it 2 years ago, I believe? That picture on the right is that's the culprit of what caused that emergency
points.
repair. Yeah, that's the failure point. And there's just an expanded version of the pipe.
But you could see those ribbing from the hydrogen sulfide gas deteriorating those pipes.
Just eating away at the concrete. So again, as John mentioned, in 2025, we did a full system-wide I&I study, again, sort of a refresh and reset. We isolated all 96 miles of pipe in town into 40 sections, 40 equally sized sections, if you will. And what we found is 16 of those 40 areas showed excessive responses to rainfall and groundwater. So the next step would be to prioritize, those 12 areas, which is equivalent to about 40 miles of your 96 miles of pipe. And that pipe, the average age of that pipe is 50 years old. Again, some of the recommendations of that report, which is with the DEEP right now under review, is the focus on the Find and Fix program. This is for budgeting purpose, these are some numbers that Wright Pierce came up with. We discussed it with the commission. Budgeting about $400,000 a year for the next 5 fiscal years, utilizing 55% grant from the state as a portion of that, and then 45% would be the town share. So the breakdown is there. It's just to kind of show, it doesn't have to be 400, it could be 500, it could be 350, whatever is approved. But again, that would be the breakdown. There's a 55% grant, and the remainder is a local share. And then thereafter, I&I it's a never-ending battle. It doesn't end after that 5 years. You're just gonna have to continue to budget money, albeit it will be less, once you fix all the major point sources. But then you can then reduce that yearly budgeted amount. There's currently some construction grants available, but they're not always available. So you can't really count on those, but if the timing is right, there is construction grant programs out there to do this construction work. And then again, continue to develop strategies to remove private I&I. This is a snapshot of a capital improvements plan for the WPCA. This shows current active projects that are in the works, and then it also attempts to forecast out, over the next 5 to 6 years, some of the potential projects that do need to be done here in town. The first one is the denitrification upgrade to that facility that was put in 2007, and that's currently under design. The Elmwood Pump Station is currently under design as well. One of the portions of the I&I study at the plant focused on the hydraulics and the surcharging, and I showed you that video of water coming overtopping. So we did a study, and there's a couple of bottlenecks there that's preventing all this water from flowing through properly. So there's a project that we recommend being done to correct those hydraulic bottlenecks. This RCP lining of sewer pipe, that's concrete, reinforced concrete pipe. That was that photo that you saw of that ribbing. That is considered a class 5 defect out of 5. It should be planned for, the repair that should be planned for. And again, it just shows right down the line. You can see here, we have the Moss Farms pump station. It's not even on the 5-year plan. It's out further. And then the I&I Find and Fix program, it'd be a yearly allotted amount for infinity, basically. And then, I'm sure you're all happy to hear this, but coming up in another 10 years, you're gonna have to take a look at the whole plan again, do another facilities plan to comply with DEEP requirements. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's where we're sitting on the I&I. If anybody has any questions.
So there's lots of information here, a lot to digest, and we've given you the, 30,000-foot view. So we're more than happy if you want to go through things in more detail if you need to, whether it's, at a different time, or welcome anyone to come to any of our meetings, or if you would like to also visit the plant. We have one of the best superintendents in the state of Connecticut, and he's very proud to show what he's done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Big nutshell. I'll turn it over to my colleagues first, and I do have some questions, but Mr. Walsh, kick it off.
Thank you. Seems like the going trend lately of lack of maintenance on some town-owned things that you don't really pay attention to until it's too late. And so going forward, you have a plan in place to inspect these things on a regular basis so that we don't have issues going down the road. You mentioned about residential homes who might be draining their gutters and stuff into that. How are you going to be able to tell that through cameras, or is that?
So it's one of the challenges. There's a variety of different ways. We've done some camera inspections. You could do things called smoke testing, and we're able to identify areas where if there's connections, we would see them with smoke coming out of their vent pipes. A couple different ways we can do it.
It's just house to house going in.
But it's tedious, time consuming, and it's an age-old problem of how do you have a voluntarily people that come to you and say, we have these legal connections. Is there any relief to help us to get them replumbed to the proper way? We know the studies tell us where we have problem areas, and then you need to go much further detail, whether it be cameraing or other methods, to identify where those illegal connections are.
So, I mean, that sounds like a monumental task.
It has been.
And you showed a picture of a pipe, the pipe where the water was coming in. Oh, not to mention half of it or a quarter of it's missing from the top. And I'm just wondering, because I think when that whole thing on Mansion Road happened, we were talking about, and I think we had it inspected up to Cheshire Academy Road. And was when we inspected that, did the pipe appear to be okay for that?
Yeah, we did a inspection where they put
It was
Orbs.
an electronic ball.
little balls, and they sent them up the tube, and it was in fair condition. There wasn't anything that we was going to say,
Those are clay?
oh crap.
Those are clay?
No, that's a ductile iron. That's the force main. So
Okay.
that's under pressure
Okay, so that,
pumping.
yeah, so, and what's the lifespan of these usually? We don't know.
The
Well,
pipes, I mean,
clay
50
pipes can be
Clay clay
forever.
pipes forever, yeah.
Depend, but it
If
depends
they weren't
upon.
installed right, they get all,
Yeah.
That's the problem,
like,
yeah.
they look like this.
Yeah, so it's if the underneath collapses or something on top
Yeah,
collapses,
hope-
then,
yeah.
yeah, so, all right. All right,
The
thank you.
the problem, so we want to separate the two things, infiltration and inflow. Infiltration is that water that's kind of seeping through voids, right? And the inflow is going to be a direct point source that's going in there that it shouldn't,
Correct.
so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is obviously, good information in the sense of it's good for us to have and to know about. Never fun to hear, but thank you for bringing it to our attention. I remember when I first started getting involved in town, I was on the WPCA back in the late 90s. So, and the funny thing was, we were talking about inflow and, back then, that was the big thing. Like, how are we going to stop this? How are we going to stop this? So now, 30 years later, we are still talking about it. But my question is, when we look at the pipes that you sent, the ones with the ribbing, what causes that ribbing? Is it too much inflow? Is it what's in the water?
It's what's in the water. That's so.
Byproduct with
This
sewage.
isn't a direct directly related to I&I.
Right, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out, because, obviously we got one problem is the ribbing, we have inflow, but I just want to see, are they somehow connected to some degree?
So not necessarily here. I mean, here you're dealing with the hydrogen sulfide is being stripped out of the wastewater and it's attacking the concrete. That's why they don't use concrete sewer pipes anymore. Use plastic because it doesn't corrode. So this was a common practice back in the 70s to put this concrete pipe in because it was cheap. So everybody has it all over, everybody has concrete pipe from the 70s. So yes, but that's not a direct relation to the correlation to the I&I.
But it's just a deterioration over time.
Right, that's why I wanted
Yeah.
to just find out, so that.
Yeah, we decided we added a couple extra things.
We
in
got,
there,
we
so
got a couple, we got two issues, to put them in one
yeah, they're
presentation.
separate issues.
My question is, so is there any way to fix this? Or is this something eventually you'll have to rip out the whole concrete and replace
In
it?
situ, right?
Yep, so you can line it trenchlessly. They'll pull they'll sleeve a liner through and then they cure it. They heat cure it, so that doesn't require any digging. But unless it fails. If it collapses, then you can't line it. It's
Right.
gotta be dug up.
It's got to, has a certain level of life to it in order
Right.
for it to do that.
So
Okay,
this would be advantageous like down Route 10. We wouldn't have to close
dig
the
up
lane
big chunks of the
traffic.
road, all
Correct.
that stuff. Okay.
Correct.
All right, and then, so that's good to know, because obviously, again, if we're looking at this and probably how many pipes or however much length of it is concrete, be curious how disruptive that would be if we had to go pulling these things out of the ground. So my other question is, when we talk about the inflow from, or in the inflow is when people put it in, right?
No, inflow is more like rain.
That's right. Okay, so then
Yeah.
it's the other one. It's the infiltration is the stuff that people
Partially, yes.
yes. But depending on how they, either through their piping, either intentionally or unintentionally, whatever, that's how it's getting. Regardless of how it's that situation, you mentioned some ways you can try to go, but you said you're probably gonna have to go house by house, or, at least neighborhood by neighborhood to do that. Is there, when you talk about money coming from DEP, is that part of what would be available? Is all of that work on the town, and then their only real influence is through the large grants to make
So-
big upgrades and stuff to the treatment plant?
That's correct. They will find the finding part. For some reason, they don't always fund the fixing part, and I don't know why. You'd have to ask them that, but I think one important point that we didn't drive home is the WPCA is not looking to tackle private I&I right now. It's a separate animal. Like, how could we could find all these sump pumps, but then how do you get people to disconnect them?
Right.
We're more focusing on the town-owned portions of the system that you have control of and that you could fix. But yes, part of the program would be to start figuring out how to tackle that private I&I in the future.
There's no one silver bullet that we're gonna find that's gonna, fix that.
Yeah, but they don't-
It's,
DEP
it's
does not pay.
education, it's, house transfers, inspections, there's multifaceted things that we would need to look at doing, that some of them under our responsibility, some of them not.
Sure.
And that's how it's a bigger problem than just a WPCA can fix.
So right now, this presentation is more focused on how do we fix these situations and make sure that the system
Yeah.
is repaired and doesn't collapse, or,
Well, and
going.
also to make room
with
for
more
more
capacity.
Yeah,
users.
the aging
Right.
infrastructure is what we're really trying to convey.
Right.
And the methods to catch up so that our system can reliably serve the townspeople of Cheshire and the businesses, safely.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Jinks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to see all the WPCA is here today. Yeah, to follow up what Dave said, it's not nice to hear, but I'm glad you guys are bringing this to us, obviously. You mentioned the DEEP is not willing to pay for anything unless we remove I&I, but it sounds like I&I is like an ongoing problem, so we just have to continue to battle it? Is that what we have to,
Yeah.
to keep getting paid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the stipulations of the NOV was they weren't gonna lift the NOV until you did this twenty
Until we
twenty-five
did that
study.
study.
So that was like a requirement of the NOV was to do the study.
Gotcha.
And now that we have the information, they said that you need to act on it, or you're risking losing any funding for further plant upgrades.
But Dennis, you said sometimes that funding is there and sometimes it's not?
For construction,
That's for,
Oh, for,
fixing these specific,
construction fixes.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And the $400,000 you guys were proposing, do we have a sense of like, for the roads, for example, we have an idea how
many
much
miles?
road we're gonna get each year? Do we know with the pipes, what we might get for 400,000?
Lisa?
try to put you
All,
on the
all
spot.
90 miles?
So
No.
we had included the 200,000, just, you know, you could probably fix like 35 manholes maybe with that. If you have 8-inch pipe, you might be able to line, a couple hundred feet. But 8-inch pipe is maybe from a residential area. If you have like a 24-inch pipe, that's RCP, the reinforced concrete pipe that you have to line, that could, one length of it, like a 200, 300 linear foot shot could take like 200,000 right there. So it's
Yeah.
really dependent.
What we've done in the so our find and fix program has been not sleeving the entire pipe, to go in and look at where there are defects and to provide fixes for those specific areas.
So we would so we would look to tackle things
Like
like
that.
this. Like with the 400,000, we would look to fix, you know,
That and that.
large single point sources. And then if you looked at the CIP, we had in 5 years, we had sort of a larger project on here. We proposed like $1 million I&I rehab project. So we don't know what we're gonna find. We're assuming we're gonna find, you know, things similar to that picture that you just.
The I&I study has allowed us to focus in on the most problematic areas. Now we need to go and do a finer evaluation through cammering and other methods to really look at where those voids are. We know where to look.
Oh, you know where to look
Now
now?
we know where to look.
Okay.
But we have not cambered those pipes.
So how did we find the spots that we found so far? So
It was actually a developer came in, was making a connection, and we asked them to televise the lines,
So,
it was
yeah.
old, and they came back with
that.
he's like, you might wanna take a look at this, and that's how this kinda started, really.
Yeah, so we were able to use alternate methods to get the information for us to be able to then go start the fixes.
And what will be our strategy for kind of figuring out where else to go to find these
So-
potential
so-
defects?
Yep,
We'll go
so,
back.
yep,
Back to the map.
oh, that's this way.
That's it right there.
So there's the town.
The blue.
The blue shaded areas are areas that have, are priority areas within. It's not the entire blue shaded area, but you could see that all the areas that are not shaded they were
So-
below the threshold.
So the technology, so the end result of this map, how we were able to determine this was, in the spring, or in the winter, spring, of last year, it was actually in the fall, right? We went through and we deployed how many
40.
meters? 40 meters?
32 to 40.
32 to 40 meters at various points.
Right.
And we're able to, when there was a rain event, determine how much flow was occurring. We would then take those meters and move them around to focus. And the end result of where we saw excessive flows going through the pipes allowed us to determine where those focus areas, where we're getting leaks and point sources.
And I assume you're gonna start in the areas of the highest flow, I guess?
Yeah, oh
or-
yeah, that's where you
yeah.
go. You always go after where a dollar is gonna give you the biggest return on investment. That's our goal.
Right, okay. But you're saying the $400,000 is gonna be something that will be ongoing for?
Yeah, so the
More or
400,000
less.
would probably be, we would probably tackle, a neighborhood.
But you can't throw lots of money and do it. It's not gonna,
Yeah.
there's only so much capacity the companies that do this have also. So that's why we're, you know, looking
Trying to
at
do it
these
in a
phases.
strategic manner so that we weren't or attempting
Yeah.
to spend millions of dollars at once.
Yeah, and, you know,
But
finding
it's like a
contractors.
generational project kind of thing. It's like,
Yes.
it's like,
So we're catching up on the maintenance.
yeah.
Right, this is the catch-up, and then you have to continue on after that. And obviously, technology's changed, there's newer things that we can use, so expect, you know, more capabilities in the future also.
Right, okay, thanks.
Mr. Wolf?
So my question is based on, you have it bolded in red, where you- minimal to no maintenance.
Yep.
In retrospect, what should have been done over the last 20, 30 years, and what would we be doing going forward so that no longer shows up?
The town's been very good at doing studies, and then racking and stacking those studies on a shelf. A collection system is one of those things that it doesn't affect you until it fails drastically. And then you are behind the eight ball, then you are performing reactive. So ideally, what should have been happening, we should have been identifying areas, performing more of the find and fix, having resources to go and identify those areas and constantly addressing them. I mean, you know, if you had a leaking pipe in your house, are you gonna let it go? You're not, because you see it. These leaking pipes, they end up in the plant. And, you know, you don't see it. We see it in our raised costs to treat clean water. But when I say it's not catastrophic, it's something that is easy to pass by. Okay, we still have plant capacity, don't worry about it. We're still good, but we're treating, and, you know, we have things like the prison that's, you know, helping fund a lot of our operational costs, things like that. So historically, we should have been doing more at the collection system. And don't feel bad. Cheshire is not the only municipality. This is aging infrastructure is a major problem in all of New England and other states also.
So we've just been ignoring leaks?
We've been ignoring it. We've been ignoring it. Yes. We don't know where the leaks are. So if you were to camera it, you'll see them. Until you do that, you don't see them.
So the I&I is one thing, but the pipe issues. So
Yeah.
we know that we have X amount of pipe that's over 50 years old.
Mhm.
Do we just acknowledge that and pray? Is that basically what we've been doing
That's
in
been-
Cheshire for the last 50 years?
That's been the strategy.
Is that,
Is that acceptable? I'm here to ask the council here, because these studies have been performed and sent to the council. So actually, I'm here to ask you, what are you gonna do about it?
so I guess that's my question. Has that been requested in the past?
Well,
Beyond the studies?
The Water Pollution Control Authority has been performing this information for quite a while, and Jim Jinks, as our liaison, I mean, multiple times I've asked Jim, have you been giving this information back to the council? And he has assured me, I'm giving regular brief updates on the conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Pearson?
So, just to recap, so we're looking at 2 million over the next 5 years is what you are recommending, and then potentially 300,000 thereafter annually.
Yeah, those are rough numbers, but we can. dial them
And with the
down.
technology potentially changing,
Yeah, this
things
is,
could.
you
So I guess just another question, we're not alone. Any idea how many other municipalities across the state have been in the same situation right now where they're at this
The
stage or this phase?
City of New Haven is performing repairs like we did in front of Napa monthly.
Yeah.
Monthly.
I mean, you see Waterbury on the news with their water, that's water,
Yeah.
but it's related.
Yeah.
So this is something we should probably working with our delegation in regards
Well-
to, this is a statewide issue, not just a Cheshire
Yeah, when
issue.
we start talking about infrastructure upgrades and asset improvement plans, it's definitely something that the state of Connecticut, you know, needs to be looking at a little, you know, on a harder level. I would say this carefully. State of Connecticut's been really focusing on regulatory items from a discharge perspective, and that's where a lot of the funding has been going, nutrient removal. But when we start looking at the failing infrastructure, you know, it is my personal opinion that that's an area that needs to be focused on.
No, it sounds like I agree with you. So thank you.
Did you, go ahead, Mr. Walsh.
I know we've had some issues with the prison. With, has that been corrected, or is that one of our problems that is
So-
ongoing?
So the prison is the only inflow to our system where they pay what they actually are delivering us. So, there's been some studies that have been performed at the prison, probably one of the most recent ones, probably 10 years ago, I'm thinking that one was. And you could see there was definitely some clearer water. There was a couple things problematic. The flow meter was faulty, wasn't rated enough. Now it's working properly. So they are 20% of our flow.
They're about 20%.
20% of our flow, but they pay for how much they send us. The state has very little interest in
Doing anything.
doing anything to correct any of their problems.
And one other thing, I mean, I know a lot of people in this town are concerned about the amount of development going on, and how much capacity can that plant hold?
We have the capacity to handle everything within this town of Cheshire. What we want to do is we want to make sure we have the capacity by restoring our assets into the best condition that can be in.
So you have no issues that with the capacity
No.
level?
We
with the
have,
development?
right now,
Okay.
during heavy rains, we have point problems, and that's why we're going after, you know, we've done some repairs, we've seen the impact. We need to take it further so we can make sure that we have all of that
All right,
ability to continue to treat what's brought up to the town.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you again. Couple hopefully quick questions.
Yep.
What is the age range of the pipes you talked about? You know, some of the pipes are newer, some are,
So,
you know, depending on when the plant was
Yeah.
built.
so obviously the newest would be Stonebridge, that's our newest pump station, right? That's brand new. The oldest force main is Elmwood,
70.
and Mansion. The oldest pipes, vitrified clay, around the center of town,
Yeah,
um,
right around where we are.
right around where we are. And then, you know, as the sprawl of the system was installed, you know, anywhere from, you know, 50 to, I don't think the town has laid any pipe in the last 30 years. There's nobody here that old. Do you know, Bob? I don't think the town has put in pipe.
I was on 20-some-odd years ago.
Yeah, and there was no expansion, so, yeah, all
90 miles.
yeah, well, all improvements, you know, anything added has been borne by developers,
Okay.
cost borne by developers.
Define an illegal connection.
A sump pump from your basement pouring draining into the sewer. A gutter leader going into the sewer.
When you say going into it, is it going into the catch basins?
Nope, catch basin is what we want. A sump pump going into a catch basin is what we want. A sump pump from your house going into the same drain that your washing machine goes into, we don't want.
Okay,
See?
all right. And so it's going into, who would have put that drain in there that would put a sump pump that goes directly to the sewer system?
Well, so you have a wet basement, and you contract somebody to put in a sump pump. And they say, okay, it's gonna be an extra $4,000 for me to take this pipe, put it underground, and tie it into the catch basin. Or I can put it right here.
Okay,
I'll hook it up later, don't worry about it.
What is our recourse in those instances?
The town has we have ordinances. I don't think they've ever once been enforced. I don't know how we would be able to enforce them unless we had the ability to go in and inspect. There's
There's a couple different things you could do. You could, like John mentioned, you can have it anytime, obviously, it would take a long time, but anytime a house gets sold, it'd be part of that whole
Transfer.
process, part of the transfer. If there's a sump pump, it wouldn't pass inspection until it gets
Yeah.
properly plumbed.
Can't get a CO until or a transfer.
Some communities, smaller communities, have offered to give the homeowner a voucher of a set amount of money to help offset the cost to have it replumbed. Some towns have tried to just make them do it, which really doesn't work. But those are some ways. That part of this program is to figure that out, really.
So of the 40 blue areas that were shown in the study, that there are issues, the issues range from all of these issues, or
Yeah.
is there one issue that is kind of the central issue of all of the areas?
Yes.
Well, we won't really know until we televise the pipe.
Yeah.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
Well,
West-
there are methods to determine. So, for example, when we get a heavy rain and the groundwater comes up, right? If we have defects in our pipe as the groundwater comes down slowly, so that you see the spike go up on the plant, inflow, and then if it trails down much slower, it's the groundwater coming down slowly. Other methods that you can see are going to be much quicker spikes, and you can explain those better to us.
yeah, there was a couple of manholes on the side of the road that Dave, the treatment plant staff and public works staff noticed that they were underwater one day
Yeah.
when it was raining. So we raised those up, and it was basically the river, which river is that, Dave?
Yeah.
10 Mile River.
Mile River was going just into the sewer system, so we
Yeah.
did correct that. But there may be more of those. I mean, we haven't located them all yet.
All along the trail.
Yeah.
We have, pipe behind Ball and Socket and those areas there too, You walk by there, there's bricks missing, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's old.
yeah. Mr. Tedisco?
So gentlemen, how much of our problem is due to these illegal discharges of water that comes to you? There's some
know.
pumps and, pardon me?
We don't know.
I mean, is it a really big deal? Is it, I don't, it seems to me that there wouldn't be an awful lot of that
So
happening.
that you would initially think that, you would say, how much can a house sump pump contribute? But when you actually do the calculations and how much water is coming in there, it's significant.
And I'm sorry, I feel bad because I'm asking dumb questions. Why wouldn't you just put the water back out into your lawn and let it just
That's
seep
what
into
they
the
should
ground?
do.
Pardon me?
That's what they should do.
And that wouldn't cost very much either, would it? Just to
Well,
put
because
it-
also, they would have to, it would,
They have to go to the lowest
you
point.
gotta go lowest point, you might have it, and then sometimes that becomes a circular system. The water then drains back, comes back down, comes up.
Most people don't even know that they have a
They don't
sump
even
pump
know that it
that's
exists.
connected to the sewer system. They just
They,
don't know.
they bought the house, it was there.
And they have a dry basement, so it's,
Yeah, everything's
good thing.
great. Yeah,
thank you.
yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you all, appreciate it. Thanks to the commission, and thanks to our staff who does a tremendous job. So we appreciate all that you're doing for us.
Thank you. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you very much.
Thank you. Item C is public comment. Any member of the public that would like to address the town council on any issue may do so. Please come up to the podium, state your name, address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Joanna Giddings, 503 Oak Ridge Drive. And before I share my prepared thoughts, I want to just share a fun fact that a mature swamp oak can soak up to 80,000 gallons of water a year. But tonight, I'd like to speak to you about the use of pesticides in Cheshire. Although pesticide application is licensed and monitored by the state, the town has an interest in ensuring the health of our local ecosystem and residents. My ask of you is that you're informed about the risks associated with excessive use of pesticides and that you work to protect our ecosystem and health. In August 2019, I was working in my garden on a breezy day when I suddenly started coughing violently because of chemical drift from across the street. I found hundreds of dead bees and butterflies in my yard, and I was sick for 5 days. My immune system has never been the same. I live with hypersensitivity to chemicals. The chemical that harmed me was a pyrethroid, a synthetic which pesticide companies market as harmless, similar to the chemical in chrysanthemums. I reported the incident to DEEP, which investigated the tick guy who no longer does business on my street. I think it's important for town council to know that we may still have pesticide companies practicing in town who may not be fully competent to do so safely. There are 3 points I want to make about spraying for mosquitoes, ticks, and lawn chemicals in Cheshire. First, spraying for mosquitoes is an ineffective practice that kills beneficial insects just as dead as mosquitoes. Spraying for mosquitoes only kills the adult mosquitoes, which typically only live for a few days. In as few as 3 days after spraying a yard, it's likely to be repopulated with new adult mosquitoes. The trade-off, mass spraying of poison for 3 days without mosquitoes, simply isn't worth it. The National Wildlife Federation and other experts instead recommend protecting ourselves with mosquito repellent and removing standing water on property. Second, spraying for ticks is also an ineffective practice that kills beneficial insects and arthropods just as dead as the ticks while introducing harmful chemicals into the environment. A CDC study found that people who had their yards sprayed for ticks experienced infection with Lyme disease at the same rate as people who do not spray their yards. I do understand why people are concerned with tick-borne illnesses. I am. But if there's no actual reduction in disease, why are we spraying these chemicals into the ecosystem? Finally, lawn chemicals. They simply are not necessary. I understand that many people are still enamored of the 20th century perfect green lawn aesthetic. However, the cumulative effect of lawn chemicals concentrating in the water table, in our drinking water, and traveling through our waterways is becoming an increasing concern and is not sustainable. So in closing, my ask of town council is that you keep yourselves informed of the chemical risks to public health, to ecosystem health, and that you consider this in your work as legislators. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Giddings. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, the approval of minutes. Minutes of April 23rd, 2026. Town Council public hearing and budget workshop. Minutes of April 28th, special meeting, and the budget adoption. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Mr. Jenks. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Mankey. Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Item 5 is the consent calendar for Tuesday, May 12th. Ms. Pearson.
Be it resolved, the Town Council approves Resolution Number 051226-1. Be it resolved, the Town Council approves the consent calendar for May 12th, 2026 as follows.
We have a motion. We have a second from Mr. Walsh. Thank you. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. I do want to make a couple quick notes. Quick shout out to Hope for Our Neighbors for their continued support of our neighbors. A $3,500 donation to the Human Services gift account to support remediation of a resident's property. There's also a very generous donation from Mr. and Mrs. Schoonmaker, $2,285. In the name of Ruth Gleaton to the library gift account. We also have the library received a $12,000 grant from the state, as well as a $1,457 donation from an incentive grant. We received $12,300 in NEF funds and a $1,300 donation from Colette Travel to the Human Services gift account. So thank you to the generosity of our residents and our organizations. Greatly appreciated. There are no items removed from the consent calendar, no items for old business. Moving on to new business, item A is amendment to fiscal year 26-27 adopted mill rate pursuant to Section 178 of Senate Bill Number 1, the state budget implementer. Ms. Pearson.
Whereas, in accordance with the town charter, the town council adopted the fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget at a special meeting of April 28, 2026, and established a mill rate of 31.68, and whereas the State of Connecticut General Assembly subsequently approved a fiscal year 2026-2027 state budget, which included $1,314,983. In addition, state grant revenue compared with the town council's adopted budget, and whereas the State of Connecticut General Assembly, through the FY 2027 Budget Implementer Bill, the bill, adopted legislation allowing towns that had, or I guess we don't know what the bill is, right, that had previously adopted their fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget to amend their respective budgets and mill rates to account for the additional funding through a vote of their legislative body. And whereas the bill is awaiting the governor's signature, now therefore be it resolved that the town council, subject to the governor's signature of the bill, approves resolution number 051226-2. Be it resolved that the town council, effective upon the governor's signature of the bill, hereby makes adjustments to the adopted fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget as follows. Be it further resolved that these budget adjustments result in the following language, which supersedes the previously adopted revenue budget resolution number 042826-3D. Be it further resolved that the sum of all revenues, transfers from other funds, and allocation of general fund equity for the fiscal year 2026-2027 Town of Cheshire General Fund operating budget will be in the amount of $155,550,533 as adopted on April 28, 2026. And be it further resolved that the tax rate be set at 31.36 mils, which will generate $125,078,147 at a collection rate of 99.2% for fiscal year 2026-2027 for real and personal property and motor vehicles, and that the tax payments for motor vehicles and personal property shall all be due and payable in one payment on July 1st, 2026, and that real estate tax payment should be paid in 2 equal payments, with the first payment due on July 1st, 2026, and the second payment due on January 1st, 2027, and that pursuant to Section 12144 of the Connecticut General Statutes, as amended, that any real estate tax bill on the 2025 grand list in an amount not in excess of $100,000 shall be due and payable in a single installment on July 1st, 2026, and that pursuant to Sections 12142 and 12146 of the Connecticut General Statute as amended, the last date for payment of taxes due July 1st, 2026 will be August 3rd, 2026. Therefore, payment of taxes due July 1st, 2026, which are received after August 3rd, 2026, will be assessed interest calculated from the original due date of July 1st, 2026. The last date for payment of taxes due January 1st, 2027 will be February 1st, 2027. Payment of taxes due January 1st, 2027, which are received after February 1st, 2027, will be assessed interest calculated from the due date of January 1st, 2027. This resolution, number 051226-2, is expressly contingent upon the governor's signature of the bill. If the governor does not sign the bill, this resolution shall be null and void without further action of the town council.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Ms. Pearson, do you want to kick discussion, or do you want me to send it to Mr. Kimball?
We'll turn this to Mr. Kimball for summary, and then we can provide commentary after.
There you go.
Sure, no problem. So, yeah, as we just discussed, well, there's been a number of emails I know over the last couple of weeks, just as a reminder for the council, but also informative for the public. As is indicated in the resolution, the town council is required to pass under our charter our budget by April 30th. So while we knew at the time of April 28th, when we were ready to adopt our final budget, we knew there was still to be some likely additional funding coming from the state, but we didn't have the actual numbers or confirmation at that time. The council did, as a reminder, and kind of why this number, you may have seen in the paper or other documents, that Cheshire actually received about $1.55 million additional from what was previously estimated. But when the council adopted our budget, we did hedge that there would be some additional funding. So you'll recall we increased our ECS appropriation by $250,000. So that's the difference between that 1.55 and the 1.3 million that you see in the resolution. But otherwise, again, the legislation that the state adopted does enable, through a vote of the legislative body, in this case the town council, us to amend our mill rate. We have confirmed with our town tax assessor, as well as our collector of revenue, who's here in the audience tonight, that we're still in a good spot now to, if we can make this decision now and have this take place, we still have ample time to prepare our tax bills and all the various other requirements that we have before starting the next fiscal year. So we are in a good place from that standpoint. But again, I think just as kind of walking through some of the numbers just briefly, the resulting mill rate of 31.36, that would represent a 5.45% tax increase, mill rate increase. That average increase for a home with 2 average vehicles is $521 per year. That compares with where we left off April 28th at $624 per year, so a little over $100 reduced. And that increase was 6.52% at the time of adoption. So happy to answer any other questions. I know the Budget Committee talked about this for about a half hour before the meeting. And so happy to cover anything in addition if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Colleagues, questions, comments? Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank the state for getting this money to us. This was a very difficult budget year, and I think Mr. Belver and I did try to almost take off $1.4 million when we were voting for the budget, but lo and behold, that's almost what we got taken off anyway. So I'm happy that we were able to lower it somewhat. I do hope that this will continue next year. From what I understand, they said the education part will be there, hopefully. And they are doing a deep dive into the ECS, and hopefully they will fix that as well. It's a very difficult to fund the schools the way that we want to fund them. It's very difficult to fund the town the way we want to fund it when it's put on the backs of the taxpayers of this town and the taxpayers who also pay state taxes as well. While the state's revenue continues to go up, their surplus goes up. it's time to start giving some of it back to the towns so that we can try to help the residents. So I'm happy and fully in support. I really don't think anybody's going to not support this one. I'd be shocked. But I'm happy that we are able to lower the mill rate, and you know, going forward next year, we will hopefully see more funding from the state. But thank you to all those who took part in getting us this funding, to all our state legislators who worked hard to do it. It was a little hairy the last few hours of it, but we were able to get it, and I'm happy that we are able to pass it along to our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Veliver.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I did not support the budget, but this is an additional revenue and doesn't go to the merits of the budget itself. And I think it's important, as Don had mentioned, this is something that, ultimately, goes to reducing the mill rate, which I think is something that the state should be doing. Hopefully, we will see them take this a little bit more seriously going forward. Although good for this year, and I'd like to thank Representative Linehan and all the members of the Cheshire delegation that helped make this, with this additional support. My concern, as I'm sure we all will share, is that this is just a one-time influx of, additional capital for this year, and it's going to create a revenue gap for next year. But I guess we will deal with that as it comes, but it's good for this year. Hopefully, the legislature will continue to view towns as important and see the continued need for this additional funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Veliver. Ms. Pearson?
Likewise, I'd like to thank our state delegation for their work, and I'd like to thank my fellow councilors and our town manager and our superintendent for also visiting Hartford and advocating for this funding. I agree with my fellow councilors that we need to see substantive change at the statewide level. Our fiscal guardrails, our spending cap need to be addressed. It is unsustainable at this time. This over-reliance on property taxes is unsustainable, and as we heard earlier this evening, now we additionally have $2 million that we're looking at in capital expenditures just to maintain our water system in town and sewer system in town, our water treatment plant. And we're not alone in the state, so we're going to need to see substantive change at the statewide level. We hope we see that. I just, again, thank our delegation for the support they provided this year. It does look like we're going to receive potentially another $850,000 towards education next year. We hope we do see that. That's what was promised to us. But we will continue to advocate next year.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Anyone else? Mr. Jinks?
Just a quick comment. I echo everything that's been said as far as our need for more funding from the state, but I would also just like to say that I greatly appreciate the fact that the state gave us the ability to make the mill rate change after we closed the budget. That was a nice touch by them, so thank you to them.
I will say that, well, first, I'll say thank you and apologize to both our finance department and tax department for putting you through this twice. Setting a mill rate, first time in my 15 years that we've set two mill rates in the same year, but this is a good reason to do it. I will echo my colleagues. When we were in Hartford and spoke with leadership there, we made it very clear that the ECS formula had to change. So this is not to be or should never be a one-time fix. This should be something that we can count on as ECS gets adjusted on a regular basis to cover inflationary cost. So I also want to thank the state delegation, and I certainly would be surprised as well if any of my colleagues aren't in favor of reducing the mill rate by $1.3 million. So with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Thank you all. Item 2 is a call for a public hearing, re the 2026 Neighborhood Assistance Act program submissions. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 051226-3. Be it resolved that the Town Council will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 9, 2026 in Council Chambers, Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider submissions to the 2026 Neighborhood Assistance Act program. Be it further resolved that the town manager shall cause a notice of said public hearings to be posted and published according to law, and be it further resolved that the date, time, and place or any further postponements thereof shall be determined by the town manager with the approval of the chair of the council.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. This is simply a call for a public hearing. The Neighborhood Assistance Act program is an annual opportunity for organizations to submit for grant opportunities. With that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Item C is the acceptance of the fiscal year 2024-2025 audit report. Ms. Mankey.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 051226-4. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Audit Committee, the Town Council accepts the fiscal year 2024-2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report Audit.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mankey. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Ms. Mankey, do you want to kick off discussion?
I am going to just kick off by really thanking Jim Joscott and Gina and everybody who worked to put this together. I know as a new council member, this was my first time being involved, and it was very interesting, and I learned a lot thanks to the people that were willing to help me. And the town's just really well run. And it runs very smoothly, thanks to Mr. Joscott.
So thank you for the thank you.
I will turn it over to him.
I have to agree that the town is really well-run, and I think that was reflected in this year's audit report, as has been in recent years. Just a quick summary of the results of the audit. We had a clean opinion on the financial statement, so the auditors, confirmed that it was presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We had no findings or questioned costs on any of our state or federal grants. That's really important because we got, this past year, we had $4.5 million of federal funds that we received. You might not think so because we don't really have a lot of that in our general fund, but our cafeteria, and there's a lot of special ed programs that are funded with those federal monies. We also have some housing grants that are federal, and if you recall the ARPA, we were still spending some of the ARPA funds last year. We have, in addition to that, about over 20 million of state grants. So the fact that we didn't have any findings or questioned costs, I'm real happy about that. And also our internal controls, no worries there, no significant deficiencies or weaknesses noted. So once again, I think it was a pretty clean audit. I'm really happy with it. Fiscal year 25, we had a surplus of just over $2 million. So that added to our fund balance, but we've been using some of that to offset the budget increases, like we just talked about. A lot of that had to do with, the $2 million was partly due because we had favorable revenue variances. I'd say about half of it was due to the revenue side, and half of it was due to the expense side. And we had very strong tax collections. 99.69%. We budget at 99.62. So that resulted in close to $500,000 of additional tax revenue. And even above and beyond that, I know Anne Marie's going to be up here shortly, but she put in a big effort last year. We sold we had some tax sales and realized some revenues back on some of the old list years on some odd properties. In general, our tax collections were really up, and considering we also had some assessment appeals that we had to absorb, I think that's very commendable to that department. So hats off there. And as you know, the building permits have been going through the roof with all the development in town. Expenditures, just short and sweet, is I think all the departments really participated in contributing to that surplus. You know, some of it was due to turnover, but just some of it, there were just odds and ends surpluses across all the departments. So the only other thing I want to mention is the audit does get an award. We submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association, and I'm pleased that so far we continue to qualify for that award. It's a 146-page document. I encourage you to take a look at it. I don't want to go through all the details, but there's a really good summary. The transmittal letter in the audit really is a good recap. So if you want to see the history of what happened in Cheshire in 2025, economic development, what some of the significant capital projects were that were completed or were in progress in town, it really is a good place to look back and see what the history was. So on that note, that's really where I'm at. I was pleased once again with the results of the audit.
Questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Ms. Mankey, back to you for the appointment of the auditor for fiscal year 25-26.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves of Resolution Number 051226-5. Be it resolved that the pursuant to the recommendation of the Audit Committee and the terms and conditions as presented, the Town Council appoints Clifton Larson Allen LLP as auditors for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
Thank you, Ms. Mankey. Thank you, Mr. Velaber. Mr. Jascott, if you'd like to.
If I could just throw in my 2 cents once
Sure.
again. The audit committee met just a few weeks ago, and I think we were all in agreement that we were pretty pleased with the service that we got from our auditors, Clifton Larson Allen. They have a great reputation in the market. They really did a lot, I think, to help us, maintain these awards and get the audit done in time. And other than that, the fee increase, I believe, is a very reasonable one, considering they held the fee flat last year, and this was part of a 2-year proposal, so it's a nominal 5% increase this year, following a 0% increase the year before. So I'd like to just continue with that second year of that 2-year proposal, and that's where we're at.
Questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Thank you, Mr. Jascott.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Item E is the assignment of tax liens. Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved, the Town Council approves resolution number 051226-6. Be it resolved that the Town Council pursuant to section 12-195H, 7-254, 7-258 of the Connecticut General Statutes authorizes the tax collector to assign for consideration such tax and sewer liens as deemed appropriate for assignment by the tax collector. And be it further resolved, the consideration for such assignments be negotiated between the town acting through its tax collector and the assignee. And be it further resolved, the Town Council awards the assignments as presented to Tower Capital Management at the bid amount of 108.3%.
Thank you, Mr. Jinks. Second was, I apologize, Mr. Walsh, thank you. Ms. Burr, welcome.
Thank you. This year, we received 3 bids, all from lien assignment companies who have purchased liens from Cheshire in the past. They ranged from 105.56 up to the 108.3, 108.3%. I was a little bit nervous with this lien assignment, I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot higher dollar amount than what I've seen in my past 3 years here. And more properties were involved. We started out with 52 properties at just over $562,000. But as of today, we are down to 29 properties that the liens will be assigned. And the total amount being assigned is $369,593.97. So with the 108.3% bid from Tower Capital, we will be recognizing miscellaneous revenue of $29,567.52. So this year was the year that I did pick the highest bidder. Last year I did not. But this year I thought that added revenue would be important considering what we're going through. Any questions?
Questions from colleagues? What does our rate usually run? What is the rates that we've gotten in the past?
I believe last year was 105%, also by Tower Capital. But last year, I think it ranged from like 105 to 105.1 and 105.23. It was very, very close last year. This year was a much bigger gap.
And the dollar amount, how does the dollar amount that we're sending, the $369,000, how does that compare?
So I typically start out in April with the RFP with somewhere between 25 and 30 properties, and I think the assignments were like 200,000, maybe a little bit less when we closed. I did look that up before I came up here at 6:30, but you know, I'm aging, and so it's kind of out of there right now. But we are, typically I turn over anywhere between 15 and 19 properties to lien assignment, and this year it's 29. And I kept the criteria the same. The criteria is if somebody owes $5,000, either in real estate or between real estate and sewer use delinquencies, that they are included in the RFP. So it is definitely a sign of the times that this lien assignment is larger than what we've experienced in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Jinks.
thanks. So can you just go through that real quick again? So how does someone get on this list again?
I have never changed the criteria from my predecessor. That criteria is if a homeowner owes $5,000 or more in delinquent taxes, so it's not just the tax amount, it's the tax plus the interest plus the lien fee, $5,000 or more, either with real estate or a combination of real estate and sewer use delinquencies.
From like the past year, or does it go back further?
It's total. So somebody may owe maybe $4,000 in real estate taxes, but they're delinquent 2 years on their sewer use bills. So that'll bring it up to the $5,000. I don't want to let the total delinquency go higher than $5,000 because, as any of us know as homeowners, once you get behind, it is so much harder to catch up. And the benefit of assigning these liens is the town cannot wait for their funds, where the lien assignment company is using it as an investment. We need the tax funds to reach the rates that you're basing your budgets on.
Right, right.
And they do, I have seen many properties redeemed through the lien assignment companies. They do send me monthly reports, so I see as they start paying them off. I also see that in a reduction of the subsequent liens that are purchased by these lien assignment companies in the following years.
And not to jump ahead, but just the difference between this and the suspense list is that you just can't collect that anymore. That's what's happening there?
I can still collect for 15 years from the due date.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that it is highly unlikely that I will collect the taxes on the suspense list. So they are removed from the assets of the town, but they are still collectible for 15 years from the due date.
Okay. I'm sure I'll ask the same question next year, too.
That's okay. My once-a-year visit to town council.
We love seeing you, so, yeah. And you can stop by any time and educate us, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Moving on to item F, which is the approval of transfer of uncollectible property taxes to the suspense list.
Be it further resolved that the town council approves resolution number 051226-7. Be it resolved that the town council approves the transfer of uncollectible taxes as presented and attached to the suspense tax book.
We have a motion from Mr. Jenks and a second from Ms. Pearson. Ms. Burr, now that we know what the suspense list is.
Yes, now you do know what the suspense list is. And also, I just want to mention that the Connecticut state statute says that taxes should not be put on the suspense list until all collection enforcement tools have been utilized to try to collect these taxes, which unfortunately is why my suspense list is higher this year than it has been in the past 2 years. And that reason being, those properties, those small properties, those little pieces left over after the developments have, done their thing, that had been ignored for many years. I did try my best to collect on them. We did bank executions. We tried a couple of tax sales. But those properties now, I believe I have exhausted all of my collection enforcement tools, and therefore, while it is highly unlikely to place real estate taxes on suspense, I truly believe I will not have the ability to collect on these properties. So that's why you're seeing real estate on the suspense list, and that's what drove up the total amount of my suspense list. Motor vehicle, the only motor vehicle taxes that were on was if they were either bankrupt or deceased. And I got a little bit tired of fighting for taxes from dead people. I did get a couple, though. And personal property, the only way that I put personal property on is if the marshal, after going out and checking, saw that they were out of business. We did still try bank executions on them, just in case if they may have left, a bank account open that we could grab some money out of. But that's the criteria for me putting people on. I use the marshal a lot for my collections. I used a collection agency for motor vehicle collections as well, and that has been bringing us in some money. So I still will not put motor vehicles on unless if I absolutely can't find them.
Thank you. Questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Thank you, Ms. Burr. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item G is approval of contract with F&G. Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved, the Town Council approves resolution number 051226-8. Be resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Sustainability Committee, Town Council hereby authorizes a bid waiver to allow the execution of a 5-year agreement by and between the Town of Cheshire and F&G Recycling LLC for municipal solid waste disposal services. And be it further resolved, the town manager is authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the town said agreement in the form and upon the terms and conditions as presented at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jinks. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for the second. Discussion,
I think I'm going to just kick right over to Sean. to explain
Mr. Kimball.
our agreement here.
Sure. And thank you. And this one's just very slightly different than what was in your packet. We had to add the word "and a bid waiver for" because that was a intention of the Sustainability Committee and our request here tonight. So thank you for slightly amended resolution there. But this is for our solid waste disposal contract. We have been in negotiations for the last few months with our current provider, F&G Recycling LLC. They've been a very good partner over the prior contract term. We had a couple options that we considered at the Sustainability Committee for slightly lower rate, but a longer commitment of 10 years, which in the end, we think with the market for solid waste disposal being in the state of Connecticut being still very much in a state of flux with some possible opportunities, maybe joint ventures with other towns that we'd like to consider in the future. We want to keep our options open there. And so, again, I think we had a very healthy discussion at the Sustainability Committee and felt this was the right move to continue with F&G. And it ends up equating to a 4% annual increase over each of the next few years. We compared with where our peers are. Again, there's a variety of different arrangements and relationships, and you hear of plants closing in the northern part of the state and other areas where I think it is in Cheshire's benefit to be into a committed contract where we have the reliable destination for our solid waste, particularly in this challenging time. So we feel this is a good rate all around. It is consistent with what we budgeted in the recently adopted budget. So we're looking for the council's support for this 5-year commitment with F&G for our solid waste disposal. Thank you.
Questions? Mr. Jinks.
Yeah, not a question, just a comment that I think that the part, as far as potential partnerships and such that Sean mentioned, I think really kind of weighed heavily on the, at least my decision and probably the committee too, as far as whether or not to do the 5 or 10 years. So 5-year makes a lot more sense. I think we just want to have that flexibility in the near term. So.
Thank you. Mr. Velaber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the agreement on Exhibit A, tip fees, there's a list of things: batteries, appliances, mattresses, box springs, propane tank. Is that applying to us? Because we're not, in theory, do we have that, or is that something that, AJ, because, when we take the things down to AJ's, like, they charge for some of these things as well. And I guess, are these rates tied to him, or are they just unrelated? It's just like, hey, here's a list of rates, but you're probably never going to bring these to us directly, so.
Well, no, so those are actually more contamination. If somebody throws any of those items in our waste stream, and then our waste gets taken to F&G, that can get charged back to the town. So, that's why we really encourage our residents to not throw those items that are not acceptable in the trash, because we end up paying for it, one way or the other.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I was just trying to figure out how this list applies, on us. But
Yeah.
but in the end, it's really because if these things end up if these things which are outside the normal things that get thrown into the trash, then ultimately we're going to get charged for those things. Does that
Right.
include when
Some
people
of them
leave stuff
don't-
on the
I
side
mean,
of the road?
Well, some of them, like a mattress and a box spring, probably pretty rare to
Yeah,
be.
tough to stuff
to
that
get
into
those in
the-
the bin. But I'm sure people have thrown tires and propane tanks and things that are not permitted in the trash stream, That is obviously strongly discouraged. There are, AJ, obviously, if they can catch those while they're on the truck, they can, or before they're jumped into the truck, they can reject those, and we have recourse, to go back to the homeowners and enforce that going forward if we need to. But yeah, that's just the charge, that at the actual disposal place on Murphy Road, they would charge if those are in our stream.
Mr. Walsh?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there are cameras on those trucks, right? So
Yeah.
if they see something, so just to let the residents know, just because they're in their truck and they're picking it up and dumping it in there are cameras, and if they see something going in there, then you could be held accountable for that too, right? Yep, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, motion passes unanimously by those present. Item H is the recommitment to the Has Waste Central program. Mr. Jinks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved, the town council approves resolution number 051226-9. Be it resolved, the town council declares its commitment to continue participation in the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Center for a minimum 3-year period, July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029, and confirms its intent to contribute financially for the operation, processing, transportation, and disposal of household hazardous waste on behalf of its residents. Town of Cheshire authorizes its town manager to enter into this agreement with the South Center Connecticut, should be South Central? South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority for the operation of the facility. Such agreement will permit the authority to act as its agent to maintain the facility, to contract with the vendor for the transportation and disposal of hazardous waste, to receive financial support from grant sources, to enter into agreements with other municipalities, and to operate the facility. Invoicing will be based on a 2-part formula. 1, annual operational costs are based on the number of 1- and 2-family housing units in Cheshire, and 2, annual transportation and waste disposal costs are prorated by residents' usage. This resolution shall be effective July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jinks. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Discussion, Mr. Kimball?
Sure. So also a topic that we had at the Sustainability Committee, but our current contract, or I guess partnership with Regional Water Authorities Has Waste Central is good through next month, June 30th of 2026. So we are looking for an additional 3-year commitment to continue to have our residents eligible to participate in the disposal of household hazardous waste through that program, which includes primarily a drop-off at 90 Sergeant Drive in New Haven, also access to other regional locations when they pop up, including one we'll be having this October, assuming we do continue to commit with Has Waste here. But in October, we'll be hosting a satellite location here in Cheshire as well. So looking for the council's support on this commitment. Thank you.
Mr. Velaber?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is going to be a good program and a good extension. It's been a good connection. Just a quick question, Sean. Do you know? I assume the answer is yes, but I've never done this, and someone asked me the question. Mini propane tanks. Is this, have you ever, those little ones that go like for heaters and stuff like that? Is that where you would get rid of these? Someone said, is this the? Maybe you don't know. I'm just curious. Someone asked me, what do I do with those? Clearly, I'm not throwing them in the garbage, or at least, okay, let me rephrase that. Not supposed to be throwing them in the garbage. So I just wonder, how do you get rid of them? Do you know if this is something that would go into this program? And also, with this program, do people have to make appointments to go, or can they just show up? Do you know? Does anyone know? I thought I read somewhere you had to sign up, but
You do. You have to make an appointment.
You're supposed to make an appointment.
Okay.
Through their website. On the propane tanks, I don't know off the top of my head.
No rush. I was just curious if
Yeah, we
anyone
can follow
happened
up.
to know.
I know on the larger ones, it's encouraged to bring them back to, the hardware store or wherever else they can
Right.
take them if they're
But
not
those
refillable.
mini ones are sort of like, they're just sort of disposable in terms of they run out and you can't refill them.
Right.
So then you got to deal with them.
There's a pretty comprehensive list on their site when you go to sign up.
Okay. I'll take a, yeah. Thank you. I mean, I figured they have to go somewhere, and this is probably where they would go, but someone asked me and I didn't know, so I figured while we're talking about this, I would ask. ask the question.
We'll get that answer and send it around to the council.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously of those present. Item I is the approval of rental fee structure for the Bartlam Park Bandshell. Ms. Pearson.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 051226-10. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Town Council hereby establishes a daily fee amount of $750 for rentals for the use of the bandshell located at Bartlam Park.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
And I see that Director of Parks and Recreation, John Galwak, is here at the podium, who can provide some clarification insight on the Parks and Rec vote this last Wednesday.
Sure, good evening. So at our last meeting last week, May 6th, at the Park and Rec Commission, so that we could start entertaining use of the Great Lawn and the bandshell this summer, we had a spirited debate on a fee schedule, and we settled on the $750, which is, they felt was similar to what we rent out both pavilions at Mixville, $500 and $250 for guests over 120. Certainly, any request would have to be vetted from my office first and probably be subject to the public gathering permit for maybe any other additional fees or needs depending on whatever event or activity was going to be taking place.
Yes, and I'll just say, I know that there was in discussion back and forth as to whether or not individuals from out of town should be included, or should it just be limited to in-town. They decided unanimously just to limit it to in-town. And it will just be a one-year test. So in a year, it will be reevaluated. So if changes need to be made, then those changes will be considered a year from, what was it, January?
January of next year.
1st, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. John, what was did we figure in what kind of revenue stream, the total that you thought you'd get from that in the budget, or is that?
Not this year, because we're still working on, we had to do the RFP for the production, the sound and lighting.
Right.
So that was.
So that'll just be a surplus, whatever we get this
That'll
year.
be extra.
Yeah, so, and I know we all got the email with the pricing for the sound system, and it was all separate, and the people who would be renting that, if they need a sound system, they would have to deal with Power Station separately.
Right, once we vet them and give them permission that the date is available, and the public gathering permit goes through its peer review of all the departments and comes back, then once those approvals are all set, then the person or the renter can contact Power Station and go through what their needs are for their particular event.
And is that the only way they can get sound?
Correct.
So they can't bring their own sound system?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Wolf?
Mr. Walsh kind of touched on what I was going to mention about subcontracting or contracting with Power Station. I would just ask that maybe be a little bit more transparent and put on our website, so that if someone is interested in that, they can find that information. It was sent to us. Mr. Martelli sent that to us, but to Councilor Walsh's point, if someone wants to have an event and they're planning on bringing their amplifier at home, that's something that they cannot do. And the cost to do that might be prohibitive to someone, because the rates that we were shown today are pretty high. Might not be high for a big concert, but if you're a small group and you just want to have the bandshell, but you just want to have a PA system, I just would like to see that be transparent on our website with the rates, so someone knows what they're in for before they start making plans.
So if I could just add, so part of the bid also with whatever company did win, there was going to be provisions for some of those local groups, and I think it was 4 or 5 maybe groups that if they needed certain audio or lighting, that it would be heavily discounted, or to the point where it'd be pro bono.
Okay.
So I'll make that part of the packet when someone does come and make the initial public gathering permit
Or
request.
maybe just somewhere on the site that just says that that's part of the process, is that you're gonna have to go contract with Power Station. It's not just the $750, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be additional to that. Thank you.
Mr. Velaber.
Yeah, just to clarify that, so, so obviously, you would assume that they may want, if they want lighting and/or big sound, like full sound, that they may need to get that, but they can't even, like, if they had, for lack of a better word, like a karaoke machine, like some kind of just, something like that, like a podium that had a speaker capacity to it, that they could just bring themselves, that's not allowable?
Well, we would have to consult, just see what the type of the event is. Because of all the electronics and the panel in the back of the band shell, there was something that the town wanted to protect and not just have anybody go in there. I didn't want to get calls at night or on a weekend. We're not, I'm not an electrician. I'm not up on the particular amenity at the park.
I just want to make, I just want to just get that clarification, because, right, there may be a situation where someone may have something really small and they just want to bring something, because they're only
And I
dealing
think
with a
that
small group.
through the permit process, that will be vetted out, and that may be something that we can consider.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously by those present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golak. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Moving on to the number 9, the town manager's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as is our new monthly tradition, today is the releasing of the May edition of the Cheshire Town Square. I've put a digital version up on the screen for you to follow along with. You should have a paper copy in front of you, but also for the folks at home. I won't read through all of it, but I do encourage folks to, again, subscribe, take a chance to read it when you have some time. I have a message from the town manager, some recent updates, and then we move into the Chief's Corner. Our chief of police has been, again, busy again this month with some great updates, some wonderful pictures from the Colonel Harvey Barnum ship dedication that he attended, and also some other great updates in that section, so I encourage you to read it. I have a nice budget update for folks to follow along, for folks interested in where we are in the budget process, and again, referencing tonight's action here as well, as anticipated. Just some updates from around Town Hall. There will be a DOT information session for future drainage improvements on North Brooksville Road in the area of Norton School. The actual meeting will be May 28th, Thursday at 6 p.m. At the Norton School Cafe Auditorium. While this project is still, I believe, a couple years out, they want to be able to answer some questions about the drainage work that they're going to be doing, DOT will be doing on the state road there. You can read more at the linked notice. Also, a reminder, Veterans Memorial Plaque applications are due June 1st, 2026, with information on how to submit a form. June is also dog license season. There's more information. Dog licenses become available on June 1st. And again, as we mentioned earlier, called for the public hearing, applications are due through June 5th for the Neighborhood Assistance Act as well. We've updated our projects around town page with a number of updates given where we are in the spring construction season. And then just a few more days left until May 15th. The elderly and 100% disabled tax credit application period is closing very soon. Some information on the town council's meetings, links to our videos, links to our agendas are all included in the newsletter. Moving on to the Community and Events Corner, again, credit and thank you for our partnership with Greg Lederer. Some really great articles, if you haven't had a chance to read them, and some great photos of our always impressive Cheshire sports teams, Cheshire High School teams, in this busy spring before the end of the school year. So some great updates on a lot of great accomplishments, and I hope folks enjoy reading those, as we used to always enjoy them in the Cheshire Herald. Moving on, boy, a lot of updates there. So the spring summer guide for Park and Recreation, including the therapeutic program guide, is all available on the website at MyRec, so you can follow the link to get updates on a number of great programs and opportunities. Similarly, Arts Place has a lot of wonderful summer camps and other classes available this summer and into the fall, so be sure to check those out. Very important, our Cheshire Library, and we mentioned this before, but this is now really going to be coming up in the coming weeks. Many communities are facing the same challenge. They're updating the system that many Connecticut libraries use for the checkout system, something called Polaris. From May 26th to June 3rd, the library will be changing software that tracks all of our collection. So what this means, there will be some limitations on, so you should definitely bring your library card for checking any library books out. But you also will be, if you have one, I heard that. Everyone has one, right? Good. But also, there will be some limitations on interlibrary loans. Actually, won't be able to place interlibrary loan requests and a number of other things while the system is sort of kind of switches to a manual mode, so to speak, while this is implemented and tested. We will be closing the library for one day. It's going to be the day after Memorial Day, so that they can be trained on the system and make sure that it's all going very smoothly. So it's a big change. It's a lot of work. Credit to our wonderful library director, Sandy Hernandez, and her entire team, who is taking this on. We don't really have a choice because again we rely on this system, but this will and we hope will improve the system going forward with a more modern system. But again, the transition could be always a little bit of a challenge. So appreciate everyone's patience while we go through this this upgrade. And also just encourage folks to get out there right now, check out as many books as you want. They're extending all of the due dates throughout this period so that you can have books to get you through any downtime week or two there in the middle. It also coincides with our summer reading kickoff, which will be June 18th. So stay tuned for more information on that. Also, I think I mentioned before the NVCOG photo contest, so I won't reiterate that great opportunity. Great news from the folks who've organized Spirits Alive. They're doing auditions May 18th and May 21st. They're looking to bring Spirits Alive back this October, which I know many of us are very excited about. So follow that lantern QR code there for more information. And great updates from ribbon cuttings, always a number of ribbon cuttings with our Chamber of Commerce. Many great businesses and new chamber members expanding or joining. So a lot of great information there. Please be sure to check it out. Great, very timely updates on tick prevention, being tick aware from our Chespercott Health District friends. So please take a look at that. The YMCA Walk with Ease, Arthritis Foundation certified doctor recommended program is launching this June and July. And then our spotlight, I think very appropriately, is on our Cheshire Human Services for Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you to the council for recognizing and reading the proclamation earlier today. You will see a number of signs around the building and our public spaces. These were done by Dodd students, Dodd Junior Honor Society students, who all created these signs in partnership with our Human Services. There's a lot of wonderful messaging out there. So I hope folks have enjoyed looking at some of those positive messages around our town. And I think that will conclude my town manager's report. I do also just want to mention one thing that's not quite in this edition. We'll put it in the next one, but I got informed yesterday that our wonderful town clerk, Patty King, has been recognized as a Master Town Clerk certification, which is awesome. And I'm going to learn more about what that means exactly, but I'm really proud of her. We're all very proud of her. We will put that, stay tuned for the June edition of the Cheshire Town Square for more information on our Master Town Clerk. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Questions, comments? Mr. Walsh?
Thank you for that. Just a quick answer to Mr. Veliber's question. The 1 pound cylinders can only be taken to the New Haven site. They can't be brought to any of the satellite sites, but So that's your
I
answer.
was gonna tell them just hold on to them to October. I guess not.
But I have asked for this in the past, and if we could, the way we get updates on the fire department and police department, if we can have Michelle give us some updates as well, I think it's important that the council knows, what's going on with the people in this town, just for, for their well-being and so we can have an understanding of where we need to focus. So I would appreciate if we can get that going. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Jinks?
On the, our newsletter here, how many subscribers are we up to, or how many roughly?
I think we were over 300 at last check. I'm not sure how much more there are than that. But again, we do publish it directly to the Cheshire Community Forum and forums, I think, and on the website. So it may not be an actual tracking of everyone who's actually reading it, because
Right.
if it's just published regularly on there, maybe folks aren't necessarily subscribing and having it emailed to them. But we do encourage folks to do that or do both. But I think the number was around 300 at last check. But
And you can just access it on the website too. on our-
and you can also, right, we put it right on our website. So we do put it in a number of spots, but the most surefire way to get it fresh off the digital press is to subscribe.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else? As a former Cheshire youth softball coach, I just wanted to highlight the Cheshire High School softball team is 16-0 this year. But the impressive thing is they have outscored their opponents by 151-3. They've given up 3 runs in 16 games. So, congratulations to them. State tournament is about ready to kick off, and we look forward to seeing what they can do in the state tournament. So, but it just an incredibly impressive number. Moving on to reports of committees of the council, starting with chairman's reports. To my left, Mr. Wolf.
Nothing to report, sir.
Ms. Pearson.
Nothing to report?
Mr. Jinks.
I think we're trying to schedule a meeting soon, I think to discuss the composting and food waste diversion program at the schools, I believe.
Ms. Menke.
Nothing to report.
You did your audit, obviously, so.
Was tonight?
And Mr. Tedisco. I have the referral of fire hydrant maintainer job description to Personnel Committee for their review and recommendation. Moving on to item number 11, appointments, starting with liaison reports. Again, to my left, to Mr. Wolf. Ms. Pearson.
Lots of Parks and Rec. We voted on one item today. Adaptive Field is under construction right now, or it will be soon in Cheshire Park Field 1. And that's moving along, the planning. NEMBA, the trails are coming along also in the Yankee Expressway property. Mixville Pavilion will be replaced in September. The pool roofing project is wrapping up. Looks great if you've been over in Bartlam Park. Boulder Knoll was surveyed by the forester, David Irvine, and the fishing derby and mud truck and touch a truck event was a stellar success. And also the sponsorships for Bartlam Beats were up to $12,750, so they were very happy with that.
Wow, excellent. Mr. Jinks.
Obviously, WPCA had a lot to report tonight.
Yes.
I don't, just a question for Sean. I don't think that, I mean, the information we got tonight was new to us, obviously, but it wasn't, I mean, we've kind of known some of this was coming to some degree. And we've started to, in the last few years in the capital budget, we've started to put money toward, annual costs for I&I and so on and so forth. So it's, I mean, it's new, but not exactly a surprise.
No, sure. Yeah, and the council authorized the I&I investigation report itself last year, but also we've been approving hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of additional capital over the last 4 budget years for WPCA. So certainly there's been no shortage of requests and successful funding of those items in recent years, and it looks like that will be continuing going forward, certainly.
Right, okay, thank you.
Ms. Menke?
Library, I don't have anything to report because Sean and Savannah did such a nice job putting everything in the town square. So we know they're going over to Polaris. Summer reading is underway, and Sandy is fabulous. We're very lucky to have her as our library director. Youth and Human Services, I appreciate what you said, Don. That might be a good idea to find out a lot was discussed, and I know being on that committee, I'm finding out a lot of stuff that I didn't know, or being a liaison or whatever. We know it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I do want to say I was able to witness some things. I work at Dodd, and Jen Fleming, one of the guidance counselors, with Michelle, they set up this kind of spin wheel, and there's prizes for it, and the kids have been really into it. It's been very positive. They spin the wheel and they just answer a question to make them get to start to think, but they've been very interested in it. Just been simple questions like, if your friend was down, what song might you recommend to them? But thanks to Human Services, because there's lots of prizes, and so the kids are getting involved in that. I do want to say, Michelle wants to give a shout out to you, Don, again, because Hope for Our Neighbors really has been doing a lot. The Cheshire Housing Authority, I guess, had 200 applicants for, what's over there, Beechwood? Thank you, Beechport. And that's all just a wait list, and there is a lot of concern about that, so that's something to think about. YMCA and Park and Rec have their camps open. They are opening longer this year to accommodate families since the school year, the summer vacation is going to be long, and we're not starting until after Labor Day. And then I am reporting from Board of Ed, and I guess they're concerned that they wanted to make sure that I got to all of you as they went on a field trip, and they went down and looked at both the turf and some windows, but mostly that loading dock. And yeah, so there's just a lot of concern about infrastructure again, and they wanted to make sure that we knew how serious some of this situation was. That loading dock, I guess, is going right down to the bars. I haven't personally looked at it. So that was something that they wanted to make sure that I passed along. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Tedisco? Mr. Walsh?
Did go to the retirement board meeting the other day. That's quarterly. Somebody who has a degree in business economics, I thought I had my share of graphs and charts and financial stuff, and that's why I went to the jewelry business, because I wanted to get away from that. But having sat through that meeting, it was very interesting. There was a lot of discussion about different funds that were being used, but the good news is the fund has has gone over the $100 million mark for the first time. There was a little blip in March, but it came back by another 5%. So I think we're at about $105 million in that fund, which is really good. It's doing very well for us. So that's the good news. Town Beautification Committee met also same day, and they had a presentation from Electrify America. It's a company that's looking to put a 10-bay charging station, fast charging station at the Everybody's / Big Y parking lot. To give the TBC credit, they are very concerned about the size of that parking lot with 10 bays and where it's going to be and how it's going to look. And they've spent a lot of time trying to figure out the best place for it. And so now they have asked the company to go back and look to put the 10 bays, 10 right in a row on the Dowling Ford side of the parking lot, because it was going to be in the next row over, and I think that might be the better location if they have to put one down in the south end. There aren't a lot of options down there, so they're looking at that. And they're the town beautification committee, but they're holding them to the fire to make sure that it looks nice and it's not going to look ugly from the road. So I give them a lot of credit for that. The pollinator pathway people came to discuss phase 2 of their garden they're doing over at Mixville. The first phase, I did drive by there and it looks very nice. It's coming up. Second phase, trees for subdivisions, which is a nice thing where they're going to require specific types of trees. Again, this group is very adamant that they're native and there are certain kinds of trees, and they'll make sure that the new subdivisions will have the proper look to it on it. And other than that, they passed some signage, and I think we're done with the signs for the north end, just about. Just about. Maybe one more. Yeah, we won't talk about that one. But that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Veliver.
I'm sure not following that report.
Yeah.
No report.
How about appointments? None. Town attorney's report, Mr. D'Onofrio.
I don't have a report per se, but what I would comment on is the I&I issue is certainly an issue that I hear a lot about in a lot of towns and at WPCA and water meetings. And what some WPCAs and municipal water authorities have done is a cost of service study so that they can determine what the right size capital plan looks like, but more importantly, B, how to make sure that the classes of customers that are contributing the most to the I&I problem are paying for the problem, because you really can't, it's been studied for a long time, and there's really no easy solution to it, especially when it comes from the residential side of things. I don't know how many residential properties you have in town, maybe 12,000 or so? 11,000?
Yeah.
So really, the only way that you can get folks to pay attention to it is if they have to pay as a result of their contribution. So, a cost of service study is probably one study that they haven't done yet. I can talk to Dennis about it and John and tell them what I've seen and what the outcome seems to be from that. That might be worth doing in terms of being able to pass the cost on to the customer that contributes to the problem.
That'd be great,
They
yeah.
didn't seem to want to hear that we were going to do another study, though, so. You got to pay for it.
Yeah. Council communications, anyone have letters to the council? Mr. Tedisco.
Well, this is not a letter, but it's just a nice opportunity I have because
Sure.
I'm on the council. I got a text from a lady, Lori Barnes, at the Calvary Life Family Worship Center. And apparently May 7th was National Prayer Day, and they wanted a town official, which I guess I qualify as. I was kind of thoughtful about that, but to come and read the proclamation from the governor as to National Prayer Day in Connecticut. So how could you say no to something like that, right?
Exactly.
So I went, it was last Thursday night. This Calvary Life Family Worship Center is on East Johnson Avenue. It's a huge, beautiful building. I'd never been in it before, but it's very, very nice. Anyway, I read the proclamation and then I stayed for the service. Interestingly enough, the chief of police was there and two other police officers were, and one of the officers actually read a prayer during the service. So it was a nice evening, and it was just a nice opportunity, something nice to do.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Item number 14 is executive session. We have one item, land acquisition for executive session, to include the town attorney, town manager, assistant town manager, and that's it. Correct? And, okay. as well as Ms. Shepherd. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Jenks. All those in favor? We are in executive session.